Steve Taylor with Think HR and Insurance Services. We design benefit plans you understand so that you'll actually use them. So, in this video, we're going to talk about PEOs. So, with a PEO, professional employer organization, a lot of times employers will ask me the question, when can I get out of my PEO? Because my renewal was over 20%. It was sky high. Well, I'll tell you one thing. When you have a PEO renewal and it is over 10, 12%, it gets very difficult for you to get written on another PEO. Now, you may ask why. When a PEO comes in, and say your group is 20 people, so you're 20 people. If you did not have the PEO, you would be on the ACA plans, state plans, probably age banded, which means if somebody's 20, they have a price. If somebody's 50, price is probably double, triple, whatever that person at 20 is, versus on a PEO, that's a small group plan, the ACA. On a PEO, you're going to be on a large group plan. So you go from your 20 people to 200,000, 600,000, maybe even more if you're on ADP Total Source, maybe if you're on TriNet. So when you are on a PEO and you see a significant increase, what it means is your group is probably not profitable, or it does go back to how does that PEO actually manage their book of business? How do they manage that insurance strategy? One way to tell is if the PEO is doing you justice or not is to look at, well, if small group is the law of large numbers and it's pretty much like the average, right? If we take the numbers for small group benefits and we're under the cost of that with the PEO, well, then the PEO is doing us a solid. We got a great plan here. But if it's over, like say you get a 20% renewal and it's like over the cost of the baseline plans, well, then that means it might make sense for us to not do benefits with the PEO. Why? Well, because your group is not on par with the demographics of the PEO at large, meaning that the premiums that are being collected versus the claims your team has, it's not benefiting the group at large. So they're going to increase the price so that they can offset some of the cost difference that your claims may have caused throughout the year. And a lot of times the reason why it's hard to get written with another PEO is when you're in a small group and you're on a PEO on a large group plan, you have something called HIPAA, right? With HIPAA, all your personal health data is protected. And when they analyze the group, they're not necessarily able to get a loss ratio from you or a report. You can't go ask your PEO for a loss ratio specifically for you. You can get a history of claims for workers' comp, but for medical insurance, it's very difficult for you to get any information on how the plan was used, because the way that the plan is administered is it's under one EIN, which is the PEO. So it's the PEO and the carrier. They have a relationship as the employer of record. But look, hey, that doesn't mean that just because the medical is upside down that you need to jump ship on that PEO or just ditch the idea of a PEO in general. Because you may be using the PEO because of the administrative function. There's a lot of things that come with the PEO that people don't think about. Like you might have medical, dental, vision, life, dog insurance. You might have MetLife, legal health. You have employee assistance hotlines, all these things that are little ancillary services that help your employees. And quite frankly, makes you feel like you work at Apple or Google, right? It's pretty cool. But if the cost is really high and it's extreme and it's just not affordable anymore, well then, okay, well then let's talk about what are some of the essentials. And we may want to go ahead and do a agnostic quoting process where we want to look at the market. We want to look at the open market. We want to see if we can maybe tell a story to get some of the PEOs to consider writing you. Because it could just be that, hey, look, you know what? That company and their carrier relationship is really bad right now, and the carrier doesn't want to renew with them. That's kind of why you're getting this ridiculous spike in healthcare costs right now, is because they don't necessarily have a good relationship. So it might not always be your group, but 9 times out of 10, it's usually that your group is not a great fit for that PEO, or you just pick bad plan designs. Because at the end of the day, if you paid a lot more premium, say you got I got a high deductible plan, and I got this really good high deductible copay plan. It's amazing. We pay the lowest premiums ever, and it hardly covers anything. But the moment one person has a pregnancy or one person has something where they do rack up enough copays and deductibles to have the plan start paying, it starts to offset the whole group, right? Then that might just be a bad plan design for you, right? So then that's when you're going to have to talk to the PEO. You're going to want to talk to the team that handles the employee benefits, the risk team, or HPP, or like health pricing team. There's a lot of different routes you can go, but typically as an employer, it is a difficult spot. You get a huge renewal from your PEO, the people you trusted to just give you such great benefits in the beginning, and it was a big undertaking. And now it is a daunting task to have to find out how do we unhook all these things and move to another PEO. I can tell you from our experience, I mean, it's not that difficult, but you got to be able to know the timelines. You got to know what to expect, and you got to have the time to focus on the details, because the details of switching a PEO, you don't want to just jump to the next problem. I'll give you an example. We've taken people off of PEOs, and then they've begged to go back on the PEOs, and coming off the PEO maybe saved them $250,000. Going back onto the PEO might have cost them $450,000 after they were unplugged. Why? Because when they originally signed up for the PEO, after coming off of their own plan, right, they go back to the PEO. The PEO may have been preparing for a liquidity event. So they might have dropped some of their pricing, or kind of gave them a honeymoon rate, right? Where it's like, hey, yeah, come onto our services, because it is difficult to make these changes. In those scenarios, it's not always great. Or there might be a renewal that's coming up very shortly. Some PEOs have a fixed renewal. So like January 1st, every year, that's our renewal. So if you sign up in December, we're going to quote you this price, but all of a sudden it changes. A lot of people who are on ADP Total Source, right, like in June, July, that's when they might do their renewals in the middle of the year. They may sign up in April, but then have to very quickly go through a renewal. And it hasn't happened necessarily with our clients, but we've seen with people we've taken on, they signed up 6 months ago for a company with the company, a PEO, and then all of a sudden within 9 months, they've been given a 40% renewal increase from the premium that they were given. So that's tough to hear. We never like that. And, one of the things that you can do to mitigate that is try to negotiate for pricing to be locked in for a certain amount of time. But, that does take a lot of connections. It does take a lot of outreach and time and effort. So if you do have questions about switching off your PEO, or you did get a high renewal and you want to figure out how can I make this work with this PEO or maybe another PEO, then please feel free to reach out for a benefit strategy session. And we're happy to talk about our PEO audit or benefits audits and see how we can be helpful in any way to you. So take care.